Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Shohwali carried Jiang Yi's corpse while following behind Fu Riluo. When he passed by Qin Mu, he turned his head to look at him. Qin Mu was refining pills, but he hurriedly nodded in acknowledgement. Senior brother Shohwali, let's meet again if we have the chance. Expressionless, Shohwali left with Fu Riluo. The black tiger god jumped down from the palace and took a glance at Qin Mu before taking another glance at Saint Woodcutter. The god's big axe had been put away somewhere while he observed Qin Mu's hand technique in refining pills. The other gods also jumped down and gathered around them. Everyone had something to say as well as numerous questions they wanted to ask. However, they all kept themselves in check. Before Saint Woodcutter spoke, none of them dared to voice anything first. God Sang-yi hurriedly pulled Sang-hua over. He wanted to scold his daughter sternly, but since no one was speaking, it wasn't good for him to break the silence. Qin Mu was at a crucial stage of his spirit pill refinement. He was completely focused and had no other thoughts. He didn't pay attention to anyone around him, but with the gazes from all the gods focusing on him, even he felt the pressure. Droplets of sweat appeared on his forehead, evenly spread out. After a moment, Qin Mu finished refining the spirit pills and gently crushed them. He fetched some water and dissolved them before dripping the solution onto Yu He and Shu Yao's eyes and ears. He carefully observed the growth of the eye membranes and eardrums of the two people, then frowned slightly. He rummaged through his Daotai sack and took out several herbs and created an ointment. He carefully applied it on the injured places. "Why did you have to apply medicine twice?" Saint Woodcutter asked, puzzled. The first time was for their eye membranes and eardrums to grow back, but the second medicine seemed to contain slight toxicity. "Why so?" Qin Mu examined Yu He and Shu Yao's eyes and looked at their ear holes again. He then explained, "This ointment isn't poison, but a spirit medicine used to suppress growth. The first spirit medicine that I refined was for their damaged eye membranes and eardrums to grow, but since it's the first time I had to refine something like that, the dosage wasn't right and the medicinal properties were too strong. If I didn't do anything, their eardrums and eye membranes would have become thick and affect their eyesight and hearing. That's why I needed a second medicine to suppress the growth." He stretched his waist and said with a smile, "Now, they are almost fine. Their eyesight and hearing won't be any inferior to before." In the surroundings, the gods of Supreme Emperor Heaven all let out sighs of relief. Yu He and Shu Yao were the strongest experts in Supreme Emperor Heaven of Seven Stars realm. They were also the youngest generation with the most hope to become gods. If they went blind or deaf, it would be a huge loss for Supreme Emperor Heaven. The deaths of Huang Yu and the rest in the Sand Table world were already a huge enough loss to them. Qin Mu paid his respects to Saint Woodcutter. Disciple Qin Mu pays his respects to Patriarch. Saint Woodcutter stretched out his arms to help him up and said with a smile, "You should have received the teachings I have imparted. Since you have been taught by me personally, you are my disciple and there's no need for you to call me Patriarch." Qin Mu was surprised and delighted. If he became Saint Woodcutter's disciple, his seniority would rise. If he met the past heavenly devil cult masters again, those old fogies could forget about using seniority to pressure him. He hesitated for a moment and probed. "Heavenly teacher, have you heard of Heavenly Saint cult?" "Heavenly Saint cult?" Bewildered, Saint Woodcutter shook his head. "I've never heard of it before." Qin Mu's face went ashen and he became dispirited. Saint Woodcutter had indeed not heard of Heavenly Saint cult. He was still unwilling to accept that fact and probed some more. "In that case, the sacred tree that sacred teacher left behind as well as the saint's rock and the axe mark, is there any deeper meaning to them? That old locust tree still hasn't died." Saint Woodcutter was astonished. He calculated for a bit and said, "That tree should be about 20,000 years old, right? I've chopped it so many times yet it's actually still alive. It's probably going to become a demon soon." Qin Mu stuttered in his next words. "Sacred teacher, that saint's rock." "What saint's rock?" "Oh, You mean the rock on which I was sitting while I was imparting my teachings? What about it? It was as though Qin Mu was struck by thunder, which threw his mind into a mess. He muttered, every time it comes to big festive occasions, our heavenly saint cult has to kowtow to that saint's rock and the sacred tree. Only cult masters and elders in the cult that had done meritorious service can have the right to have their ashes buried under the sacred tree. Saint Woodcutter shook his head. So much etiquette? I hate etiquette the most. Could heavenly saint cult have been established by that disciple of mine? Your big brother didn't learn all of the abilities and instead made quite a number of rules instead. By focusing on the rules, he had lost sight of the meaning of me imparting my teachings to him. What a good-for-nothing, what a good-for-nothing. The disciple and big brother he was speaking about was Founding Master. It was an elusive person whom Qin Mu hadn't seen even in Fengdu. That man had never come to Fengdu, so Qin Mu didn't know where he had gone. Still, his face flickered between dark and clear. The sacred tree and Saint's rock that everyone in the cult viewed as treasures were actually such worthless stuff in the eyes of Saint Woodcutter. If this fact was to be spread about, everyone in Heavenly Saint cult, including the young patriarch and the past cult masters in Fengdu, would probably go crazy. The black tiger looked at his dazed state and opened his mouth. However, he held himself back from speaking and just thought to himself, my lord always scolds me frequently and doesn't believe that this brat's mental state isn't good at all. Yet in just a short while, this brat has changed over a dozen different expressions. True God Pang Yu walked up and checked his eyes and ears. He also checked Shu Yao. When he saw that they were fine, only then did he say in a low voice, little friend Qin Mu has saved you too, so why aren't you coming up to give your thanks? The reason why you two could walk out of the sand table world was also because he risked himself to lure in the enemies, getting rid of 3 of them first. Yu He and Shu Yao's heart trembled violently and they cried out, he got rid of 3 strong practitioners by himself. Counting Jiang Yi, it's 4. Pang Yu sighed and said, among the 10 devil experts, 4 had died at his hands. It was almost half in an instant. If we add the devil expert that the girl from Sang Yi's family had gotten rid of, the 2 of them had seized half of the military service. The others including you 2 fought to the point of 6 of you dying, yet you guys only got rid of 4 of the enemy. The devil race is still not to be underestimated, their abilities are still. He shook his head and didn't say anything else. Yu He and Shu Yao were silent. They looked at each other with bitter expressions. 9 people had died in the devil race and Qin Mu had personally gotten rid of 4 while Sang Hua had taken care of 1. That was indeed more than half of the battle service. Meanwhile, Yu He and Shu Yao had each taken care of a devil expert and worked together to get rid of another 1. This meant that the other 6 human experts who had died in battle had only achieved 1 kill with their lives. The battle power of the devils was indeed higher than that of the humans. If it wasn't for the unexpected addition of Qin Mu, they would have faced a complete annihilation of the greatest of their younger generation. Yu He and Shu Yao let out a shaky breath. They came to Qin Mu, who was still dispirited and in a daze, and gave their thanks. Qin Mu hurriedly returned greeting while full of smiles. I was obsessed with raising the power of my flying swords and didn't introduce myself to senior sister and senior brother. My name is Qin Mu, Qin from threshing grains with 2 men holding a pestle and Mu from herding the cows. I pay my respects to senior sister Yu He and senior brother Shu Yao. The black tiger god saw his dark and clear face changing into a radiant smile in the blink of an eye and couldn't help snorting coldly. My lord just can't see how fast the face of this brat changes. Yu He and Shu Yao immediately returned his greeting, and Shu Yao said apologetically, we scorned senior brother Qin several times just now and called you as someone who threshes grains and forges iron. I hope senior brother won't hold a grudge. With a solemn expression, Qin Mu said firmly, the method of writing the word Qin is from 2 men holding pestles and threshing the grains, and I'm not joking. Truth be told, this little brother learned to read all kinds of writings from my teacher and all kinds of languages like those of devils, dragons, Buddha, Udu, and even some of the God One. Sometimes I like to be punctilious about minutiae of wording, so it isn't purely just showing off. The expression of this brat changed again. The black tiger god gritted his teeth. Yet my lord just can't see it. Senior Sister Yu He, Senior Brother Shu Yao. Qin Mu's solemn expression vanished, and his smile became like the spring wind. With his eyebrows moving up and down, he asked, "Have you heard of Heavenly Saint Cult?" Truth be told, this little brother is the cult master of Heavenly Saint Cult. It was founded by my master, which is this sacred teacher. You guys have also seen him before and know that he's wise, heroic, and a man of few words. However, the teachings of our Heavenly Saint Cult are really good and really wonderful. The so-called path of the saint is none other than the everyday use for common people. After a moment, Qin Mu let out a shaky breath and beamed at Yu He and Shu Yao, who had just joined his cult. He thought to himself, my sacred cult has just branched out into Supreme Emperor Heaven. My luck isn't bad today, recruiting 2 hall masters with the potential to become gods. It's fine if Saint Woodcutter doesn't admit knowing Heavenly Saint Cult, it's all good as long as he remains silent. That's right, there's also Sister Hua. The black tiger god twitched his ears in utter boredom. My lord can't see. Qin Mu rushed toward Sang Yi and Sang Hua, but he was stopped by numerous gods. They praised him one after another, and Qin Mu could only reply them humbly. With the praises of numerous gods, his confidence was boosted and he was overjoyed. My lord still can't see. The black tiger god flipped one ear forward and the other backward as he thought to himself. Qin Mu was obstructed by numerous gods. When the commotion dispersed, the gods of Supreme Emperor Heaven immediately hurried off to mobilize their army to populate Li City so it wouldn't be seized back by the devils moments later. Sang Hua was also brought away by God Sang Yi, which made Qin Mu sigh to himself in pity. Follow me, I have some things to ask you, Saint Woodcutter said. Qin Mu hurriedly went after him. The black tiger god wanted to follow as well, but Saint Woodcutter turned back to look at him and he stopped. The black tiger god turned his head to look elsewhere. Are you a devil or a human? Qin Mu had followed Saint Woodcutter to a quiet place where he received a dozen questions. Even though you have learned my techniques and received my inheritance, there's still a weird power in your body of the devil race. You had suddenly appeared in the battlefield and in the middle of the devil, so your actions are suspicious. Tell me, where are you from exactly? Qin Mu hesitated for a moment before saying, Carefree Village. Saint Woodcutter suddenly turned and looked straight at him as if he was trying to see if he was saying the truth or lying. Qin Mu had a calm expression when he said, I wasn't born in Carefree Village. My mother was carrying me in her womb when my parents left it. They encountered enemies on the journey and she finally gave birth to me in Yudu. King Yama of Fengdu said that because I was born there, something unexpected must have happened, resulting in the devil nature of Yudu entering my body. My lord, his expression has turned calm again, yet you still can't see it even when staring at his face. Far away, the black tiger god was seething with fury. You say you are from Carefree Village, but do you have any keepsake? Saint Woodcutter asked. Qin Mu hurriedly removed the jade pendant from his neck. Even though Qin Mu pulled out the jade pendant, he didn't take it off. He said with hesitation, King Yama said that this jade pendant suppresses the devil nature in my body and I can't show it easily to anyone. If the pendant leaves too far from my body, bad things will happen. Saint Woodcutter shook his head. With me by your side, what bad things could happen? It's at most small tricks like some curses or lightning strikes which are nothing to me. Qin Mu gritted his teeth and took the jade pendant off. In the past, I've taken the jade pendant off and showed it to the people in the village. I've also shown it to Sister Jing and nothing bad had ever happened. Nothing should happen this time too. Saint Woodcutter took the jade pendant. He focused his gaze on it and nodded. It is indeed the jade pendant of Founding Emperor's bloodline. This one doesn't seem to be exactly the same as those. There's a strange sealing formation in its depths. Could it be the formation to seal your devil nature? Someone had brought me out from Yudu and to great ruins. I was picked up by Granny Sai. Besides me, the basket, and the swaddling cloth, I had only the jade pendant. The person who had sent me there had died of severe injuries. Qin Mu's face dimmed as he continued to speak. Granny Sai is the saintess of my Heavenly Saint cult, and it was her who had nurtured me into an adult. This jade pendant had always been on me. Granny Sai and the rest couldn't find any use for it besides forcing the darkness of great ruins back. However, it was only big enough to protect a baby. After that, the village chief discovered that the jade pendant had an ability which could lead us to Carefree Village, but it was only a trap. The jade pendant brought me to Fengdu and we encountered the devil god that had ambushed us outside it. There are indeed even more secrets. Saint Woodcutter fiddled with the jade pendant until his gaze went abnormal. This jade pendant can not only lead you to Carefree Village, but it can also lead you to Yudu since it was forged there. On top of that, the person that forged it was extremely powerful, even more powerful than me. Strange, such a strong seal, what is it trying to seal? His gaze flickered as his curiosity arose. Once I suppress the sealing formation in the jade pendant, I will be able to know what it is sealing. Qin Mu was also filled with anticipation. When King Yama had tried to do so, he had lost his consciousness and didn't see what had happened afterward. He was also very curious about what the jade pendant was sealing and what would happen after undoing the seal. Saint Woodcutter looked at his expression and muttered to himself irresolutely while holding onto the jade pendant. He then stuffed the jade pendant back into Qin Mu's hands. The young man was puzzled. The person who forged this jade pendant is very powerful and should be one of the most powerful existences in Yudu. That is a mysterious place whose true face only a few people can discover. Even Founding Emperor didn't know how many experts were hidden inside it, Saint Woodcutter said. There must be a reason for this jade pendant to be by your side. I think it's best not to probe into it. Since King Yama said to not let this jade pendant leave your body, you shall do as he says. He wanted to know what would happen if he suppressed the seal of the jade pendant, but he endured it. Qin Mu could only take back his jade pendant and continue to carry it around his neck. By then, there were already a number of divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven entering Li City and repairing the broken constructions, building up the city defenses. Qin Mu looked around, but didn't see weapons like True Origin Cannon or Sunshot Divine Cannon. Even though the abilities of Supreme Emperor Heaven's divine arts practitioners were very strong and a level above the divine arts practitioners of Eternal Peace, their algebra was very weak. Weapons like True Origin Cannon required very high attainments in algebra, so these people couldn't forge them. Even if Qin Mu drew the blueprints and gave it to them, they still probably wouldn't be able to forge them. Only Eternal Peace Empire that had countless divine arts experts with strong algebra was able to do it. How did you come to Supreme Emperor Heaven? Saint Woodcutter asked. Qin Mu roughly told him how he had changed the sacrificial method of blood sacrifice and exchanged himself for a devil general, transporting himself into Supreme Emperor Heaven. Saint Woodcutter shook his head, truly reckless, exchanging yourself with people of the enemy camp. Aren't you afraid of death? Qin Mu took in a long breath and said solemnly, to defeat First Ancestor Human Emperor, it's worth the risk. Can Sacred Teacher teach me the method to become a young true god? Saint Woodcutter was slightly stunned. You want to become a young true god and defeat that army deserter of Hall of Human Emperors? Qin Mu nodded solemnly. Saint Woodcutter smiled. You don't know about his background? Qin Mu was in a daze. You and him are the same, both of your surnames are Qin and both of you are my disciples. Fu Riluo calls me Heavenly Teacher, which means the teacher conforming to the heavenly laws. It is also the teacher of Son of Heaven. I'm actually just a teacher. Back then, under Founding Emperor's orders, I taught the princes and among them was that army deserter of Hall of Human Emperors. Saint Woodcutter walked toward the east city gate of Li City while reminiscing about the past. His gaze was faint. This prince had an extraordinary aptitude and his comprehension was also high. However, when the disaster erupted and the celestial heavens fell in battle, the prince was terrified of death and escaped. By coincidence or fate, he rescued some people and became revered as human emperor. I had also lived, so he had come to visit me numerous times. I wasn't willing to meet him though. Afterward, I turned into a stone statue while my primordial spirit roamed the world in search of answers, so I never saw him again. It'll be very hard for you if you want to defeat him. Qin Mu clenched his hands into tight fists and said loudly, however, Sacred Teacher must have a way, right? Saint Woodcutter scaled up the tall city tower. Since they needed to defend from the devil invasion, the city towers were all constructed very high, so scaling one was like climbing a mountain. I've taught him before, and his aptitude and comprehension were the best among all of the princes I've taught. He could master any divine art the moment he learned it, and one comprehension of his was equivalent to 100 of others. He respected his teachers and placed importance on the teachings. Even though I despise him for being a desert, I still admire him very much. If you want to defeat me, it's useless if you just rely on me to teach you. Saint Woodcutter was like a mortal, ascending step by step instead of using any divine art. I'm a teacher of founding emperor and have the reputation of heavenly teacher. In terms of battle power, I wasn't the strongest at the time. On the contrary, my battle power could only be considered mid-level standard. If I teach you, you won't surpass that deserter. On top of that, he smiled, haven't I already taught you? Qin Mu was stunned. What he meant were the teachings on the rock, so logically, Saint Woodcutter had already taught him. However, Qin Mu was indignant about receiving this kind of teaching. Saint Woodcutter clearly had an even more powerful divine art. In the battlefield, Qin Mu had met Fu Yuxiao and was almost killed by him. It would have certainly happened if not for Saint Woodcutter, who had executed a move for Qin Mu to learn and escape from harm. Since he had even powerful divine arts, why wasn't he willing to teach? Qin Mu wanted to learn the techniques and divine arts that could allow him to become a young true god. He wanted to unify his corporeal body and surpass first ancestor human emperor on the same realm, to press him down in the mud, break his bones and make him puke blood. He wanted to beat him until he knelt on the floor and begged for forgiveness, until he kowtowed and apologized to the past human emperors. If I teach you my divine art, you won't rack your brains to comprehend Calamity Sword. Opening Calamity Sword was a wonderful thing, but I can't teach you that. Saint Woodcutter ascended the city tower and sat down. He patted the step beside him and signaled for Qin Mu to sit down as well. Qin Mu sat down on the icy cold surface. He turned back and saw that the black tiger god was standing below the tower. He didn't come up. The divine arts I know are all hidden in the scriptures. You just need to use your heart to comprehend and you will be able to learn them. Those scriptures were taught to me by founding emperor. The things I've learned are too numerous and variegated, so even if I received founding emperor's supreme arts, I still couldn't take a step forward. I can only be considered mid-level among the gods and devils, Saint Woodcutter explained. In time, I realized that learning too many things might not be a good thing. Come, let's watch the sunrise. Sunrise. The corners of Qin Mu's eyes twitched when he looked at the sky. A broken sun was gradually giving off a red glow. Its distorted form was stinging his eyes. His face instantly became black, and he hurriedly looked away. He then suppressed the urge in his heart. Beside him, Saint Woodcutter's face also gradually turned black and he lowered his head. The sunrise of Supreme Emperor Heaven had made both of them feel like they were sitting on pins and needles. They were both restless. Qin Mu was the heavenly devil cult master and skilled in algebra. He learned carpentry from Old Ma and sought perfection in all crafts. Even the furniture that Granny Sai had personally made was all amended by Qin Mu, so how could such a horrible-looking sun in the sky be left alone? Heavenly Devil Cult also had Craftsman Hall and Heavenly Works Hall that had strict requirements for their crafts. The two were from great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures and were halls that had branched out from the techniques of calculation and craftsmanship in the scriptures. Great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures were imparted by Saint Woodcutter, so one didn't need to think a lot to know that he had astonishing attainments in algebra. The divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven were very proud that the suns in the sky were forged by their gods, but to the two of them, the suns were an eyesore. In the sky, another sun gradually became brighter too, and the two suns hung motionlessly. The corners of Saint Woodcutter's eyes twitched, and he tried his best to not raise his head. The fellows of Supreme Emperor Heaven have already forgotten all about craftsmanship. The god that forged the sun seems to be called Sun Forger, Qin Mu said with his head lowered. Bah? What Sun Forger? I know that fellow. He was merely a chef in the celestial heavens. Qin Mu was stunned. Saint Woodcutter got up and said, "You have to comprehend the method to become a young true god by yourself. It's better than me teaching you. What I teach is mine after all, and what you comprehend are the things that suit you the most. I will bring you to the door, but you will have to walk the rest of the journey by yourself." He raised his head to look into the distance. The south, west, and north of Lee City still had devil chi surging around like huge pot lids covering the heaven and earth. "I've come to Supreme Emperor Heaven this time only to stop the devils from sacrificing Supreme Emperor Heaven. Fu Riluo is a wise commander and withdrew because he didn't have enough power to deal with my abrupt arrival. The next time he comes, he will bring forth a world-shattering blow." Qin Mu's heart jumped in shock and he hurriedly asked, "Can Supreme Emperor Heaven block it?" Boom! The ground trembled and Qin Mu hurriedly looked toward the source of the sound. In a battlefield far away, numerous divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven piled up the corpses of the devils and humans that had died in battle, turning them into corpse mountains. Suddenly, the ground split apart and huge sacrificial altars gradually rose from the ground. The glow of blood sacrifice flashed, and a beam of red light rushed into the sky. Within it, tall stone statues appeared. Boom, boom. Violent tremors reached them as the battlefield shook non-stop. More and more sacrificial altars appeared. On them, beams of red light that were like tall towers rushed into the sky, and stone statues formed on the altars. Agitation filled Qin Mu, and he looked at Saint Woodcutter, anticipating his reply. "We can't," Saint Woodcutter poured cold water all over him. "We can only delay them for a period of time." On the sacrificial altars, the stone statues were reviving at a steady speed. Formation markings swirled in Qin Mu's pupils, and he focused his gaze with some suspicion. The god statues all had special characteristics. One was a god with a tortoise's shell, another with a leopard's tail, one with a bird's head while another with a dragon's, and numerous others. There were 24 sacrificial altars and 24 different god forms. However, Qin Mu felt like he'd seen some of these gods somewhere. The stone statues in great ruins, he finally recalled. The stone statues that he felt were familiar had come from great ruins. This meant that all of them were probably from there. The stone statues were about to become gods, and it meant that all of the stone statues in great ruins had the possibility to revive. They could return to being living gods, which affirmed his earlier guess. 24 stone statues entered Supreme Emperor Heaven, so it would have an extra 24 gods to assist them. They were probably friends of Saint Woodcutter and their abilities should all be extraordinary. Yet Saint Woodcutter said that they couldn't defend against the devils and could only delay for a period of time. What exactly was the origin of the devil race? How did they have such terrifying abilities? When he voiced out his questions, Saint Woodcutter looked at the stone statues and was silent for a moment. The origin of the devils is very mysterious, and even I am not clear on it. However, some rumors say that they come from Yudu, are its life forms. It's said that they separated themselves, but I don't know if that's the case or not. The devils have many worlds and their abilities were always powerful, so it's only natural that Supreme Emperor Heaven can't defend against them. Qin Mu's heart stirred slightly. In that case, what's the relationship between the devils and the so-called true celestial heavens that destroyed founding emperor era? Zhehuali is from that place and his master Luo Wushuang is even the head of celestial heaven spirit elite guards. He had sent his disciple to train among the devils, so it's clear that there's some relationship between the two powers. They are related, but not as boss and subordinate. Saint Woodcutter knew quite a lot regarding this, but he didn't explain in detail. Their relationship is more of two people using each other. The so-called celestial heavens frequently use the devils to do some stuff that isn't convenient for them, and to survive, the devils are also happy to be used. My primordial spirit has been roaming the universe for many years in search celestial heaven's origin, but I didn't find anything too useful. He stepped on the air and walked to the sacrificial altars. Since you are already in Supreme Emperor Heaven, stay here for some training. I need to do some other stuff. Qin Mu was about to give chase, but he saw Saint Woodcutter leaving farther and farther away. The space his feet covered looked normal yet was really great, making it impossible for him to catch up. Sacred teacher, I still have things I want to ask. However, Saint Woodcutter had already left into the distance, and Qin Mu's cultivation wasn't high enough for his voice travel that far. Little tiger, stay with him. Saint Woodcutter's voice came from the distance. Don't let him create trouble everywhere. The black tiger god immediately acknowledged and went up to Qin Mu's back. Its large shadow covered the youth. Qin Mu smiled and said, "Sacred teacher is a poor judge of character. I'm the sacred cult master and not a child, so why would I create trouble?" The black tiger god looked down at him with a black face. "Aren't you self-aware in regards to creating trouble everywhere you go?" Qin Mu raised his head. The black tiger god was simply too tall, so it was quite tiring to talk to him. "Senior brother tiger, can you shrink yourself?" "Senior brother?" The black tiger god's expression instantly changed into one of pleasantness. His two ears went upright, making him look pretty majestic. He said with a smile, "Seeing how you call me senior brother, I won't look down on you from high above. You could also see that I'm not just a mount, but a disciple of my lord, so in terms of seniority, you should indeed call me senior brother." His body gradually shrank, and after a moment, his height became similar to that of Qin Mu, and he looked like a youth with a tiger's head. It was just that his two ears were still extremely nimble and would twitch from time to time. "Senior brother tiger, sacred teacher said to not create any trouble, and this is creating an incident. Creating trouble and creating incident has a huge difference and can't be put together," Qin Mu said seriously. The black tiger god wasn't taken in by him and shook his head. "My lord told me to watch you. I won't let you out of my sight." Qin Mu's head ached, but he could only let him follow him while thinking, "I had planned to have sacred teacher help me design the world bridge to connect eternal peace and supreme emperor heaven, but he has things to attend to, so it looks like I can only finish it myself." This video will end here.